Greetings, one and all, to the most cursed, most cringiest corner of the internet. A YouTube channel content creator, actively alienating everyone in both the analog and digital world. Well, welcome and good evening, you wonderful dice of all alignments. I am Lunar D8. This is Let's Play Don't Beg for Help. There's multiple endings. I'm playing this blind. There's no psychologists in this world. They're simply not needed. Because my family problem can be solved by a wizard. I'm not sure if the spelling mistakes are on purpose. It is enough to cast a spell or give a couple potions to drink. Their life gets better. But is everything so rosy? Jill couldn't wait until the end of class. She was in no condition to think about her studies. The professor's monotonous and dull voice. Oh, I bet everyone feels relatable on that. Did not put her in the right frame of mind. All the girl's thoughts invariably returned to her lover. The periodization of the history of economic development distinguishes three phases. Natural economy of the Middle Ages. When's the bell? Just a few more minutes, and I'll fall asleep on my desk. Time seemed to slow down by the minute. Every now and then, the girl glanced at her watch. She tried very hard to catch the teacher's words. Suddenly the bell woke her up. We'll see you tomorrow and continue. Jill could no longer stand the tedious voice, hurriedly put her things in her bag, and ran out into the street, not listening to the professor. Jack was waiting for her at the university gate. Hey baby, I've been waiting for you. I thought our classes were ending at the same time today. I left the classroom half an hour before the end of the lesson. Won't you have any problems? I don't care. I wanted to please you for something, therefore. With these words, Jack handed the girl a flower, probably plucked from a flower bed near the university. Thanks, very pleasant. Jill felt warm in her soul, because her lover rarely gave something without a reason, or showed his feelings in any other way than hot kisses in bed. How much time do we have? Do we have time to stop by my place? Is your husband on shift today? Well, that was unexpected. Okay. No, Paul is home all day today, so we have to hurry. No, I'd actually... Okay, I would give you a ride, but you remember that my bike is still waiting for repairs. Of course, I remember. Have you already got a stipend, or stipend? Yes, why? I thought you could lend me some. Well, I don't know. And I would take you to sea, as promised. Where are my dice? If I were streaming this, I could just ask chat. But like, what chat? What should we do? This is... definitely an unexpected thing. I have a better idea. Jill took out her smartphone. I have Paul's internet banking account here. I can transfer you money from his card. Excellent. Wouldn't he mind though? Huh? He has a lot of money on his card. I don't think he'll notice. But the conversation between Jack and Jill did not last long. A painfully familiar car stopped not far from them. Oh no, it's my husband. What is he doing here? I don't know. I have to go. Jill hurried to sneak into the car. Paul pressed the pedal, and they set off in the direction of the house. Paul, we'll talk at home. Paul's voice was so serious that Jill didn't dare say anything else. Who was it? Paul started the conversation as soon as they entered the house. But yeah, this is a very interesting story. It's just my classmate. And do your classmates often give you flowers? Jill now noticed that she was still holding in her hand the flower given by Jack. You don't give me flowers, at least someone is paying attention to me. Maybe you also slept with him? Yeah, she admitted that at the start of the story. And if so, what do you care? You haven't seen me as a woman for so long. Oh, you are? Who? Be a man, say you want. Who am I? Nobody, I didn't mean to say anything. Well, I feel like there's, again, many multiple endings. And I guess we're probably going to try for all of them, so... Paul, I can't go on like this anymore. We need to break up. What, you can't do this to me? Are you leaving me for this scoundrel? Look at you. Okay, you're an ugly nerd. It's not true. Paul's voice began to break into a squeal. Better than your sugary boyfriend. What did you see in him? He appreciates me, takes care of me, behaves like a man. And me? You only looked like a man once in your life when you asked me to marry you, and now you only have work on your mind. I have to provide for both of us and our children. What children? What kind of woman would want to have children with you? I feed you, dress you, give you money for manicures. I'm grateful. Besides money, you have nothing else. Unlike you, and here he knows what a woman needs. And what is it? A man with balls in every way. I'll show you balls now. I've already seen them. They can hardly be seen. Oh, so you're not going anywhere from me, or what? Paul began to slowly approach Jill. His face changed so much that Jill felt uneasy. The husband took one step after another. The girl retreated from him until her back rested against the kitchen counter. Well, this is taking a bit of a dark turn. Music, you're not helping. You're making it sound like something bad's about to happen. I mean, Granley? Yeah, I mean, he has a right to be upset, but this is not going to be a situation like... Violence is not okay in this situation. At this point, it's just like, yeah, oh, you want to break up? That's probably for the best. Given that this relationship is going badly. Granley, I've seen much worse relationships in real life, so... Paul's palms clenched into fists, and veins bulged on his skinny arms. Jill was scared. It looked like Paul was ready to strangle her. Of course, he was a nerd, but in this state, he was a serious danger. Trying to escape, Jill abruptly pushed Paul and rushed to the exit from the kitchen. The guy was totally unprepared for the backlash from his wife. He fell on his back, banged his elbow on the floor. Paul groaned in pain and decided not to pursue the girl. When Jill ran out into the street, she stopped in a stupor. She did not know what she should do next. Go to the police, call her lover, or go to someone who could immediately solve the problem. After some thought, Jill decided that she needed to go to a specialist. She went to the nearest newsstand and bought a newspaper with advertisements. Pages were littered with suggestions of hereditary magician, all solving family problems, affordable love potions, magical patronage, all matters. The girl's attention was caught by a very small ad, but it had the words cheap and student discount. The magician's name kind of promised for a very small fee to turn life in the right direction and help get out of any adversity. Like Jill flagged down a cab and hurried to the wizard Kino's office. So is it just like a fancy title you have for your psychiatry office, or do actual wizards exist in this world? Like, is there like professional Quidditch happening? Like the NFL? The door was wide open, and Jill stepped confidently into the room. The apartment where Jill found herself did not look like the home of a real wizard. The dilapidated wallpaper, the old furniture, the dust, perhaps in this way the wizard was trying to create an atmosphere of antiquity and mysticism. Hello, is someone there? Her voice broke the silence, but there was no response. I came to you through an ad. No one seemed to be in the apartment. Jill took a few more uncertain steps. In a decided it was time to leave. Who dares to disturb the great Kaido, whatever, how you pronounce it? Good afternoon, I'm on the ad. Why didn't you say so in the first place? Come in, take your clothes off. But why would I take my clothes off? I'm supposed to examine you. Or do you always sit dressed when you see a gynecologist? Oh. Okay, still, that doesn't seem like a very hygienic outfit for that. I'm sorry, I must have gotten the wrong address. I'm looking for a magician. That's me, the great wizard Kaido. What's your problem? I see, you were being a jokester. Okay, in that case, clothing's cool. Though it has to be cold outside, otherwise you'd be burning up in that thing. I feel like I need to turn on a second fan. It's too warm. Then again, it is May, so... I'm having difficulties in my relationship with my husband. I'm having difficulty and with another guy. Oh, I'm sorry. I specialize not only in family matters, but also women's health. Usually men or couples come in with marital problems. That's why I thought you came from another ad. So, can you help me? Sure. Tell us more about your situation. Jill honestly told Kaido the whole story of her relationship with Paul and Jack. Kaido listened to her half-heartedly, glancing at the clock hanging on the wall. Can you help me? Of course. Who better than the great Kaido to solve your problems? Great, but it's just a question of price. I was just wondering how much it would cost. It all depends on your choice. We can use one of many methods: potions, spells, incantations, and more. I feel like I should do a save. The same save layout is used in so many games. I think it's probably an asset used in, like, visual novel maker. Is that even a thing? I don't know. Each will require a different set of ingredients, so some will be more expensive and some cheaper. We can easily find something that fits your wallet. Kaido began to rummage through the cabinet of ingredients, evaluating possible options. When he finished, the magician turned to Jill. I can offer you one of 4 options. First, I perform a magical ritual that will affect you, Paul and Jack, in such a way that you will treat each other with the utmost respect. Neither of you won't even think of scandalizing or raising your voice, taking offense, or even expressing dissatisfaction with any action. That doesn't sound good. Like, here's the thing. 1, it doesn't necessarily mean there's anything wrong with a relationship if there are no arguments, but if there's a reason for an argument, such as, a partner cheating, then there should definitely be an argument. There should definitely be a disagreement. It's just, it should never come to the point of, violence. Because I'll say this, if you're ever in a relationship, if you ever feel scared of your partner, if your partner would ever try to hurt you physically, or you ever think your partner is going to hurt you physically, let alone actually has, then you definitely need to get the fuck out of that. So, it is what it is. But you also shouldn't have a situation where everyone's just agreeable with whatever. But in the same regard, if there's nothing to argue about in a relationship, then there's no reason to argue. And that's actually probably the best way for a relationship, is if there's nothing to argue about. If there's nothing to argue about, there's no reason to make anything to argue about. But if there is something to argue about, then it needs to be resolved. At no point should it be resolved with violence. Either, a discussion happens and something is worked out, or the relationship ends. The end. That's it. That's all there is to it. Interesting. Then I can be with Jack, but Paul won't resent it. Yes, because he wouldn't resent you betraying him. Like I said, in this situation, Paul is better off not being in the relationship with you either. Like, obviously, neither of you is happy, so... Though, honestly, I don't think Jack actually wants a relationship with you. I think he's just using you for both money and a quickie. And the moment he finds another girl, he's just going to ditch you. Heck, he's probably sleeping with 10 other girls at the moment. It's just the fact that you're basically his Saturday night, and honestly, you're probably one of a dozen people he gave a flower to that day. So, but that being said, you obviously don't want to be with your husband. So you should get divorced, but you should not expect Jack to commit to you in any way. Jack honestly doesn't give a shit about Jill, and he's basically just manipulating her. And Paul actually does care about her, but, he's now obviously upset, certain things, but at the same time, he shouldn't be going to become violent. That does cross a line. But yeah, option 1 is not honestly respectful of anyone. Like, all 3 people involved. I can work out a special spell for you personally. As a result, your husband will cease to be interested in you. I mean, that's already been accomplished. Next option was she will put a potion that will make your husband love you without memory, no matter what you do. So we're just roofing him? So you're basically giving him a roofie and a lobotomy. Potion simple enough magic, that's what it cost you inexpensively. That's tempting. If you're completely financially strapped, how should I put it best? You're a very prominent girl. What are you implying? I have a special magic wand that can work miracles, and I can assure you even your husband cannot resist it. At these words, Kaido pulled a small wooden wand from the folds of his robe. The wizard waved it, and the light flickered at the end of the wand. Oh, you mean that? I was beginning to think. I have listed all the prices in the sheet. Choose what works for you. Okay, is this just like Harry Potter with guns? Okay, so we have option 1, making him become a cuck. Option 2, you basically that's already accomplished. He already is in the process of not loving anymore because of the horrible thing you were doing and the horrible things you've said to him. Think of it like this. Love is like a plant. You have to water plants or they die. Same thing with love. You have to actually nurture that or it dies. And you have done a lot of not only not watering it, but pouring salt all over it. So honestly, I don't think you need, there should be a 5th option which just says, like the name of the game says, don't beg for help. I should probably do a save. Try to do all the endings, I guess. I'm just saying, the best option would be just go back, talk to your husband, get the divorce, and then that's it. Have nothing to do with him anymore. Option 3 is you both lobotomize and roofie him. So you're basically just giving him brain damage and you're drugging him. And this one, I liked your magic wand. I would love to see it in action. I assume that's like a Harry Potter with gun scenario, that the wand's just going to function like a gun, and we're just going to blow his brains out and he's going to die. Like I said, each of these, honestly, you don't need and obviously I did take a bit of a negative way of expressing each of these, but there is a way to do each of these in a way that is not fucked up. Okay, mutual respect. You could have just, not cheated on your husband. You could have just talked to him respectfully when you found out and just expressed you just didn't want to be in a relationship, and you guys just talk it out, and either you decide to fix things or you end it. Either way, you just have a nice civil conversation and that's it. Or you just say that you just don't have feelings for that person. Again, that's something you just do with words. you can tell someone that civilly without being, aggressive or demeaning. And again, this one is just, you would just apologize and just try to, actually appreciate the person who actually cares about you. And this one, honestly, under no circumstance should anyone ever do this. But unfortunately, it seems to be a common thing in the real world. So let's pick that and see if it's what I expect. Great. It would take very little overhead to lubricate the wand. What do you mean, lubricate? Are we going with a gay joke now? Is that where we're going? I thought we were making a joke about the wand being like a gun and we're just going to blow his brains out and we're going to murder people. What is happening? I don't think the magic wands needs to be lubricated. Lubricated wands are much easier. Conduct magic. Okay. Are we going sexual jokes or violence? What is happening? I don't understand what genre we're about to lean into. Are we about to become a hentai game? Or are we about to become like Corpse Party? What is happening? What direction are we going in? It can't be both. And to avoid undesirable consequences, you should also buy a special cover for the wand. A rubber one? Doesn't your wand have a cover? Let me check Steam real quick to make sure that this is not a hentai game, because I can't show that on YouTube. Okay, it doesn't say anything about hentai or nudity or sexual themes. It says adventure, visual novel, horror, multiple endings, choose your adventure, single player, gore, violent, anime, and indie. It's made by Kosmo Cat. Okay. So, we are hypothetically not about to be a hentai. They are disposable. I see. This whole situation seems familiar to me for some reason. Have you ever gone to a wizard before? No. It's only $10 for everything. Surprisingly cheap. Okay, so is this like universal healthcare wizards? Like, is this Wizards of America, Wizards of UK, Germany, France? What country is this? Joe Hurley handed over the money before the wizard increased the price. I'm expecting you and your husband tomorrow at 9 p.m. Why so late? My wand works best in the dark. Weird. Trust me, I am a professional. I am a fire marshal! You guys remember Fire Marshal Bill? I'll put that in the playlist. It's pretty funny. Jill went home, wondering how she could convince Paul to visit the wizard in the evening. It's like, you're a wizard, Harry. No one gets that reference. The best solution seemed to her to lie to Paul, so they go to a restaurant to rest and make up. Paul was very happy to see Jill back and didn't even question her about where she was. It was as if her husband had returned to his usual slobbering state. Wow, you don't respect him at all. That's why he accepted the offer of a romantic evening with enthusiasm. The next day, Jill and Paul went to the magician's office in good spirits. Only as she approached the building did Jill realize that she hadn't even asked Kaino what kind of magic his wand was supposed to do. Will Paul himself want to leave her? Or will he ignore Jack? What if something worse happens? But it was too late to retreat. Like, is he just gonna pull it out and like it's gonna be like a Glock? It's like, oh, look at my wand. I'm like, that's a fucking 12-gauge shotgun, man. What is this place? Oops, I forgot to tell you. My friends invited us to visit. I wanted to tell you, but it's not mine. What kind of friends? That is Kaino. And his wife? Who's Kaino? You never mentioned it before. We didn't talk much. He's a classmate of mine. His wife suggested we meet. Why did the wife suggest it if he's your classmate? She came to our college and we got talking for a while. Okay, come on. Yeah, it's kind of obviously lying. The girl opened the door and she and her husband went inside. I mean, it looks fancy. The room was transformed so much that Jill did not recognize it. I mean, he is a wizard. There were burning candles everywhere. Those are candles? I think this was like glasses of wine or something. And they fled a room with a warm, flickering light. In In the center was a huge leather sofa. Next to on the table was oak bottle wine glasses and a plate of fruit. The floor was strewn with rose petals. A light melody is spilled in the air, emitted by a vinyl record player. I don't think they were expecting this today. It's alright. Jill's voice was not very confident. It didn't take long for Kaino to arrive. He came out the next door holding a glass of wine in his hand. Good evening. I've been waiting. Hello. Paul hesitated after the first one. Jill did not find the courage to speak at all. This was not how she imagined the magic ritual. Don't be shy. Have a seat on the couch. Let me pour you some wine. Paul and Jill obeyed in silence. When they each had a glass in their hands, Paul dared to break the silence. Is your spouse coming soon? My spouse? Of course. She'll be here any minute. In the meantime, you and I can work. Okay, that is very... a very intelligent and adaptable way of being. Kaino winked at Jill, but she was in such a daze that she was afraid to even blink. Let's drink to your young family. That implies that she's pregnant. The glasses clinked together, and all three of them took a sip. Drink up. Don't be shy. We have another bottle to spare. I'd hate to be asleep by the time your wife arrives. Kaino put his palm on Paul's hand. I know what you mean. How many times I've finished without even waiting for my wife to come home. Ha ha ha. Neither Paul nor Jill understood the joke. Finished what? Well, you know. That happens to men. No, I don't know. Then let's drink to manpower. What the fuck? The glasses clinked together and there was less wine in them. And immediately to your beautiful wife. There was nothing left for Paul to do but drink again. His glass was completely empty. Jill finally dared to talk. Kaino, when are you going to show us what you promised? What do you mean? Paul spoke with a slurred tongue. I prepared a little gift for both of you, and you drugged him. This is a gift. We don't even know each other. But I know your wife well. By the way, Jill never told me about you. At these words, the girl became nervous and took a sip from the glass. The taste of the wine seemed strange to her. Okay, you're drugging both of them. There was something subtle about it, but familiar at the same time. For some reason, the girl felt as if they was added. What do you mean added? Something not quite edible. But at the same time, she liked the flavor? Would you like to get to know me better? What is happening? At these words, Kaino leaned slightly toward Paul. To Jill's horror, at that moment, Paul smiled. Okay, so... I mean... you didn't want Paul anyway. Okay, so... I guess Paul is marrying Kaino. Okay? This is... okay. I mean... I would have no problem with this if it happened organically, but... he is kinda getting drugged. So... This is rape. This is... yeah, like if it was... happened organically and consensually, then that's perfectly fine. But there's a surprising lack of consent. Today you will have that opportunity. Kaino, that's not what we talked about. My dear, I told you that I'm professional, trust me. But where is your promised magic wand? Are you so eager to see it? I wouldn't mind to see the wand. You can not only see it, but also touch it, and also feel it, in a not quite usual way. Sound good? Jill rose abruptly from the couch. I don't think my presence here is necessary. I thought you were a professional, but you turned out to be just a scammer. Please refund my money. Take a look at the terms of the service at the entrance. Payment is not refundable. To hell with you, I'm out of here. That right, leave the man alone. Okay, well, this is... I mean, it's better than pulling out the fucking Glock, but still, this is... there's a lack of consent occurring here. Because obviously the wine was drugged with something. So not only is there alcohol involved, but there's other stuff, other chemicals, also possibly magic. So, all of that's wrong. But if there was like no magic involved, no drugs, no alcohol, and everything's completely consensual, then it's fine. But yeah, everyone's getting drugged. There's a problem with this. Jill walked briskly to exit. As she reached the doorknob, all her muscles went numb at once. I'm sorry, but that's not the way it works. If I don't do the service I was paid for, I could lose my license. Who licenses you? Where do you get a license for this? My dear, I am a professional. I am a fire marshal! Trust me. Yeah, trust the man. He did his best. Wine, music, what else? Candles. Great man. Lots of ellipses. I'd banged. Fucking hell. Again, like I said, I'd be perfectly fine with this. Yo, if it was consensual and not drugs and not alcohol. I mean, yeah, all three people here are very attractive. But he's not only drunk, but he's also drugged and under the influence of magic. So, this is rape. So, yeah, that's... fuck. That's not cool. That's not good. You may very well have the opportunity. You have great taste. I mean, technically, like I said, all three people here are attractive. And you basically have you have a girl and two Bashonans. Yes, it's a joke in regard to, like, anime and stuff. I'm trying to be funny. But this is a very unfunny topic occurring? Because like I said, if everything was completely consensual, then it's fine. I'd be perfectly cool with that. But, you know, alcohol, drugs, magic. He's basically been roofied in more than ways than one. This is sexual assault and rape. This is... yeah, like I said, it's just... you're taking away the person's ability to consent. What do you think you're doing? Don't... okay. Paul has lost the ability to use vowels. Come over here, don't be shy. Scammer, I'll call the police. Kaido frowned slightly. There was a small wooden wand in his hands. Wow, what a trick. Where'd you keep it? There was room for more than one wand. Ha 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 ha. Ha ha ha, what a guy. Jill, don't you understand humor? His robe has no pockets. So the wand's in his... ha ha, well done. Wait a minute, so this is a real magic wand? Of course. Then why all this nonsense? In order for magic to work, it's necessary to properly prepare the object. The girl thought for a moment. And what should happen as a result? You and your husband will be happy. What about the third one? The third one will also be very happy. Good, then I'm ready for action. Jill stood beside her husband, putting her hands on his shoulders, and looked resolutely at the wizard. And I'm ready. Okay, what is about to happen here? That's great, but you see, there's two of you and only one wand. I have another magic wand. Whatever, go ahead. Yes, use your wand in me. Okay? On me butt. Why do I want to try to voice him like Shrek? Like, I know we have more serious things occurring here, but I'm just imagining, what accents would I give everybody? Like, not that I'd be able to do accents, but like, okay, who would get like an Irish, or Scottish, or German, or French, or Spanish, or American accents, or English, or Japanese? But be careful. Kaido said nothing. Okay? He just wiggled his shoulders, and his short robe slipped gently to the floor. The wizard smiled charmingly. Jill wanted to scream, but some force prevented her from making any sound. I assume, you know, it was the drugs? Paul did not seem surprised with this development. And you weren't lying. I can tell you're professional. Such a wand? I've never seen such a wand. I'm glad you're not showing that, because I don't want to have to censor anything. Jill watched in horror as her husband's hand reached for Kaido's magic wand in, you know, parentheses. I've always believed that every man has a little bit of magic in him. Why don't we try out your wand too? The girl watched in a daze. Her husband clumsily pulled his clothes off. She still tried to scream or move, but she couldn't do anything. Moreover, with each passing second, the desire to resist was subsiding. Yeah, everyone's been drugged. Here's a question. Kano was drinking too. Did he drug himself too? What is happening? That still doesn't make it better, but still. Like, what is happening? I mean, it's kind of obvious, but still, it's like, what? I'm just in disbelief at what's occurring here. Like, I understand what's occurring. I'm just like, what? I was expecting a visual novel of hints of horror. I remember one time I went to watch a horror movie, a quote-unquote horror movie, at the movie theater. I think it was Into the Woods. I was expecting, a straight-up horror movie. And instead it was a full-blown musical where it was just constant singing the whole time. It was also very cringe. And I know I say I'm the most cringy person on the internet, but still, I was like, oh my god. What has happened? Going from one type of horror, you get a different type. But yeah, like I said, I mean, just the fact that, one, there is a relationship, Jill and Paul should resolve their issues before people start doing stuff with other people. But two, if Paul and Kato got together organically, then that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's actually good for them. I hope they're happy. But this isn't happening organically. He was brought here under false pretenses. He was given wine that was probably stronger than normal wine. It's also drugged. And there's also magic. So he was led here under false pretenses, and he was drugged and roofied and is being raped. Because that's what's happening. That is what's occurring here. And that's not okay. Consent is very important. People cannot consent if they are fucking drugged. Or if you're like Harry Potter. I guess that counts too, but still. There aren't very many people that actually have actual Avada Kedavras in real life. Jill began to enjoy this unexpected and somewhat frightening sight. I see that the wine has begun to work on you as well, and I guess you're welcome to join us. It's alright, your husband. Paul only nodded, pulling off his last sock. Oh no, don't pull off your socks! I wonder if anyone out there will actually get that joke. Still, again, the only problem I have with this is the fact that this is rape. He was drugged. This is not okay. Like I said. That's the problem. The fact that people were drugged. This is rape. This is sexual assault. Of course, lover. And I love you, honey. And I love Kano, too. Yeah, Kano, I love you too, bro. And I love you. You're my favorite customers this week. After these words, all of them fell on the soft couch and emerged in the ecstasy of love. For a moment, Jill thought Kano wasn't lying, and that the three of them were really happy. After that, the girl gave herself over feelings. Since then, they have become regular customers of Kano. The end. I have 3 boyfriends. What is this music? Obviously, this is a, one of those power outlets. We have multiple outlets. What is this music? This music makes it sound very, very dark. And I know it's a horror game, but it's what just occurred was not right. Then again, everything that occurred,
people shouldn't cheat on their partners, and people shouldn't even threaten to be violent to their partners, let alone actually be violent. The music is really well done. I do like the music. The music is really awesome, and heck, the art's not bad either. Heck, I don't know what to really call this art style I'm looking at right now, but it's actually definitely, it's well done. But it actually, like, just the picture itself makes, even though it's just a picture, nothing's really happening, and it's just like a phone charger. That's it. Like, it's just stuff plugged into a, like, I forget what they even call it. I forget what they call those things. They usually have like 6 or 8 outlets on them. What country is it supposed to be on? But yeah, if you guys want to see more of this game, let me know. But yeah, like, I mean, this is not a healthy relationship. I would say this. Yes, there are people out there who would choose to have that kind of relationship. But me, in my opinion, I'll say this. Nobody should ever be in an open relationship. If you're in a relationship, you should only be sleeping with your partner, and they should only be sleeping with you. Neither person should be ever cheating on the other person, whether behind the other person's back or in the open. If there is cheating occurring, then the relationship should end. If there is violence in a relationship, it should end. Now, granted, there are people who have been in relationships where shit did hit the fan, but it takes usually a couple months to go through the process of a divorce, and a lot of times you have to consider things about the legality of things where you just can't just break up a thing. I'm just saying this. I would strongly advise everyone out there to never ever get married, because if you are married to somebody, whether they are cheating or are violent, psychotic, and abusive, and potentially going to kill you, or both, all those things, marriage makes it a little bit more difficult for you to get away from such a person. I actually had a relationship that was pretty fucked up. It took about 2 months to go through divorce proceedings. Had to, of course, do everything I could to try to... Though, once we were basically getting divorced, I didn't have sex with my wife for those last couple months, because, at that point, she was already... And at that point, I didn't want to do anything with her anymore. Between the guy and the fact that she was just psychotic, abusive, violent, even tried to kill me in my sleep a few times. Heck, I have a incident that occurred when I was wide awake. On my last Christmas being with her, I still have a 3-inch scar on my right arm. Even though it didn't really show up too well on the camera, thankfully. I think it's actually starting to dull. But beyond that, it's just a bunch of other shit. Just, at the end of the day, it's like when you're married and have family, like, you really don't have any options. Still actually tried to make that marriage work. Told her as far as if, okay, stop seeing the other guy and get tested and don't do this stuff anymore. But that day I was just... What can I say? One, I've been raised to... If you're married, you're supposed to do everything you can to try to save your marriage. That's what you're supposed to do. 2, well, when I married her, I really, really, really loved her. Heck, I trusted her. I thought she'd be somebody who would never betray me and never hurt me. and she went completely fucking out of her mind. Granted, I have mental illness too, but my mental illness is that I have severe depression, low self-esteem, and I tend to be an overly lonely, introverted person who talks to himself because I tend to spend a lot of time in isolation. And as time has gone on, that's only gotten worse. That being said, my mental illness is not anything to do with violence. Heck, I've never killed anyone in my life. I've never tried to kill anyone in my life. I've never once hurt an innocent person in my life. Heck, the only times I've ever even hurt anybody at all was always in self-defense. And heck, I've never even hurt a woman even in self-defense. I'm an extremely peaceful person to the point that, honestly, if people were to criticize me, they would say the greatest fault they would find of me is that I'm not aggressive enough or violent enough. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a saint. I do have angry thoughts and angry feelings. But even though I play violent video games and I enjoy reading like Edgar Allan Poe and watching horror movies and such, and don't get me wrong, I will fight to defend myself. I just have no desire to hurt anybody. Just not a violent person. Though apparently everybody seems to look down on me for that. But I guess if that's the sort of stuff it would take for people to respect me, then I just don't give a shit. That's a price I don't want to pay. If that's what it takes, I don't want it then. As far as I'm concerned, the only reason I would ever hurt anybody is in self-defense or in defense of another person. But yeah, like I said, I mean, heck, I'm the kind of person, like, I've never cheated on a single partner I ever had. And yeah, that's the saying where like people hide their phones from people. I've never cheated on anyone, but I've hidden my phone and not let people get into my phones. But I was never talking to another person. I just didn't want people looking at my Google search results about how to deal with depression or thoughts of negative things about yourself. Heck, I've had depression my whole fucking life for over 30 fucking years. Never told a single person I dated or had a relationship with. I dealt with that shit on my own. As well as 1,000 other things. Though, between back when the divorce happened and, the way my wife was, my son having to go live with his grandparents on his mother's side. His parents are actually scared of their own daughter. I at least know my son is happy and safe where he is, and I still get to try to see and talk to him as much as possible. He knows his dad loves him and is proud of him. Same regard. That's the funny thing, I tried to save my marriage. Yeah, even before we went in to see the judge to finalize it, I told her we didn't have to get divorced. That if she didn't want to get divorced, yeah, we could still try to make things work. What can I say? I'm stubborn. But she was quite insistent on it. Which I'm glad. I tried my best to save the marriage and I failed, and I'm glad I failed. Had we stayed married, me, my son, and what their child we would have had next, she would have killed us all. We'd all be dead. Same regard in what the stuff that happened shortly after the divorce that made it where the way she was being, my son had to go live with his grandparents. It was the only way to protect him from her. Had that decision not been happened, I mean, numerous things occurred even beyond that just justified it over and over and over again. Had he stayed in the shared custody, his mom would have killed him. I don't miss her at all, though I am a very lonely person. Then again, I was never more lonely than when I was married. She's out of her fucking mind. And like I said, I don't miss her at all, but the fact of the matter is, she was somebody I trusted. In a world in a lifetime where I had spent so much time alone. Heck, every relationship I'd had up to that point didn't exactly end well, and every girlfriend I ever had actually has cheated on me. A world that constantly tells me that I'm worthless and hated and just considered a failure in every way, and that there's nobody that actually sees any respect in me. It does tend to make you feel a tad sad. Like I said, I do acknowledge I have a bit of mental illness. Hey, recently I've been accepting that maybe I might have ADHD, and I might at least be half autistic, maybe more. I'm not sure if I ever should even go to the doctor or get diagnosed. I'm not even sure how a doctor would even fucking do that. And even then, at my age, what would even be the point? I'm kind of too old for any of it to fucking matter. But yeah, at least my mental illness is, I don't know, ADHD, autism, severe depression, suicidal thoughts, tend to feel sad a lot. My physical health tends to suck. I get tired a lot. I get lethargic. And I sometimes have an obsessive and addictive personality where I'll just sort of, I'll just start thinking about random things, or read a lot, or I'll start reading a book and I'll just sit there for hours and just keep reading. In general, in life, I tend to be a very stoic, very quiet, reserved person who really doesn't talk much to people. And even then, I usually wouldn't talk about anything personal. Heck, I've never cried in front of other people, aside from, physical injuries or people dying. But I would say that probably for about 3 decades, I've probably cried at least once every single day. Heck, since the divorce, I've pretty much spent every day, at least a little bit every day, just sit in my son's room, talk to his stuffed animals. Like I said, he's happy and safe where he is. His grandparents love him as if he were their own son. They take really good care of him. He's safe from his mother, and I still see and talk to him. I still spend as much time with him as I possibly can. I give him hugs when I get the chance. Heck, when he actually did live with me, I'd give him like a dozen hugs every day and tell him over and over that I love him and I'm proud of him. Heck, I was telling him I love him and I was proud of him since before he was even born. mom's womb. I was there when he was born. Took 2 weeks off the job I had at that time, and just spent those 2 weeks taking care of him and his mother. When I married her, I really loved her. I cherished her. She was my best friend. Just the fact that it was somebody I really trusted, I cared about. Somebody who I thought cared about me. It became like that. She even said so herself. She never actually cared about me to begin with. She was just lying to me from the start. But the fact that, somebody you trusted turns into a fucking violent psychopath. And at the end of the day, is like, okay, you have to not only be concerned for your own safety, but about what's going to happen to your child. It's funny, I went into that marriage thinking, I'll do whatever I have to protect my wife and my children. And I didn't envision a scenario where I'd have to protect my child from his own mother. Part of me actually blamed myself the whole time and felt that I could fix things. Felt that must have been something I must have done wrong. But like I said, I did everything I could to try to save that marriage because I didn't want to lose my family. No, I definitely would never ever want to start another family after going through all of that. I'm definitely never marrying anyone ever again. Like I said, not only does it make a huge legal mess when it comes to trying to not be with someone who is, being unfaithful and just an all-around bad person, but also makes it just about impossible to get away for somebody who's being psychotic. But yeah, like I said, I acknowledge I have mental illness myself, but my mental illness is just depression, low self-esteem, suicidal thoughts, PTSD, again the depression, perhaps autism, ADHD, and I tend to be an overly lonely person who talks to himself and talks to stuffed animals and talks to imaginary friends and talks to himself and all that shit. So at least my mental illness is I'm not a threat to anybody. I'm just somebody who's just going to be sad and lonely and talk to himself and listen to music and cry. So that's my mental illness. My mental illness is I talk to myself and I have very low self-esteem and I tend to be extremely anxious and have PTSD about, honestly, hundreds of things that have nothing to do with my marriage. But that also adds to it, the marriage things that occurred. And again, I don't regret that I got married. I had a lot of happy memories, and besides, abusive relationships don't start as abusive, and even then, even when they do become abusive, it's not like it's abusive all the time. And heck, I've always been physically stronger than every partner I ever had. By the same regard, I'm not the kind of person who would ever use that strength against somebody, let alone somebody I care about, somebody who's my partner. I'm not gonna... It's just... And I guess to a degree I didn't want to accept that the faith I had put in somebody, that person really never existed. That it was all a lie. And the person they really was a monster. Something that's legitimately a life and death threat. I really do hope I never see or talk to her or hear from her ever again. Because as far as I'm concerned, I actually am. Even to this day, I'm still much stronger than her in every way. But I'm not somebody who would be violent to people. At the end of the day, I consider her more malevolent than the fucking stories you read about, like fucking cryptids and creepypastas. Like those horrifying little pictures that they have that are, of course, generally unsettling and do make you feel uncomfortable. I feel a greater aversion to her, with the way she was, the way she became. Like I said, her mental illness is she's psychotic, she's violent, she's malevolent, she's a pathological liar, she's a manipulator, and if she could get away with it, she would definitely kill. And she doesn't care about anyone. She doesn't even care about her son. She doesn't care about anyone at all. I don't think she has any capacity for empathy or morality or any ability to actually care about anyone. Like if I were to suddenly see her on my doorstep, my assumption would be that she would be here to kill me. But yeah, the things that occurred, even after the divorce, you just consider the things that happened after the divorce, the first couple months after the divorce. Even if you consider those things in isolation, those things in and themselves prove if we had stayed with the shared custody, if I didn't agree for my son to live with his grandparents, she would have killed him. My ex-wife would have killed our son. The choices I made kept everyone alive. Though I said I don't regret marrying her all. Had I not, then I never would have had my son in the first place. Honestly, if I hadn't married her, there would have been nobody else. And it's not like I would have been willing to be with my son, but there would have been nobody else. And I said again, I really did love her. And like I said, I don't miss her at all, but the betrayal of it, definitely. The betrayal as well as just, well, what can I say, prolonged exposure to a negative environment has an effect of causing someone to be a bit paranoid and jaded. Then again, I have 1,000 other things from things that happened before I even ever met my ex-wife, before I was married at all. At least over 1,000 other things that occurred that all are things that I emotionally deal with. But like I said, I don't really bother people with that shit. I keep it to myself. Heck, 6 months ago I had a bladder surgery. And of course, you know, my parents know. I mean, they had to drive me there. I mean, the doctors aren't going to let me drive down the fucking freeway after being anesthetized. So, my dad drove me and my mom out there. Then my mom was there with me a few hours until we got for surgery. Then she, of course, was waiting in the waiting room area, which, honestly, the surgery took twice as long as it was supposed to. Either that or I just spent a good deal of time unconscious in the recovery area. And at least, again, thanks it wasn't the initial surgery they suggested they wanted to do, because honestly, one, not only would I have probably never even agreed to do that more invasive surgery, but honestly, given the way my body reacted to both during the actual lesser surgery and the recovery, I would have died. But yeah, after I was done with that, Dad came back, picked me and Mom up, dropped me and Mom off at my house. Well, apartment, whatever. I mean, granted, I was mostly recovered in a week, but I spent 3 days basically crippled. And granted, my mom isn't exactly very strong. I mean, heck, $14 and a half years ago, my ear was itchy. 14 and a half years ago, my eldest sister died of a brain aneurysm. And then, about a year before the divorce, technically slightly less, but just about a year before the divorce, Mom had 3 strokes and an aneurysm that almost killed her. She was mostly recovered about half a year or so before divorce. Like, she recovered pretty quick from it, thankfully. I'm glad she didn't die. I do have my own grievances with my parents, but I do love them. I love and I respect my parents. Granted, like I said, I do have things I disagree with them on. I do have my issues with them, and I do have my grievances with them. But I do love them, and I do respect them, and I don't want them to die anytime soon. Especially my mother. I love my mom very, very much. And I know I'll miss her more than I can possibly imagine when she eventually dies. She was over here for 3 days, 3 nights after that surgery 6 months ago. And I definitely needed her because I basically was crippled. She had to go to the pharmacy to pick up medicines for me and all that. Heck, technically the first night, I had her drive me to the emergency room just to make sure that, because, there was blood coming out of me, so I needed to make sure there wasn't something seriously wrong that was potentially life-threatening. I also asked them to give me morphine because I was in a bit of pain, but they told me no. I have been given morphine at one point in the past, but I think that was during a kidney stone thing. I think they gave me like 4 milliliters or something. I'm not sure. That was like a long time ago. But Yeah, I wanted them to give me morphine because I was really, really uncomfortable, a lot of pain. I was extremely miserable with the way my health was. But that was 6 months ago. And here's the thing. It was about 2 years before I had that surgery. It was about 2 years I had that surgery. 2 years before I had that surgery, so 2.5 years ago. So when the doctor initially told me I was going to have that surgery, or, I was going to die, basically a stricture in my bladder and issues with the part of my urethra that connects to my bladder and all that, basically, either that gets fixed or internal organs would explode, killing me. So, it sucks. That'd be very much an inconvenience. But of course, it wasn't a pressing thing that had to happen immediately, so I definitely put it off as long as I could. And then eventually, a year and a half later, they wound up telling me that the lesser invasive version of it was much more viable than they first thought. Because like I said, I remember I initially made like a video called Angry Stream. I was basically bitching about the full details of what the more invasive, full-on surgery would be, which would basically like 6 weeks of recovery pretty much. And they would have definitely had to basically cut me open and do reconstructive surgery. And I really didn't want to do that. Plus, I really couldn't just afford the time at that time. So, and during all the time, I kept working a bunch of overtime, which is why I've been able to save up money to be able to just have this time off from work. Because I said eventually I had to quit work because everything went to shit at that fucking place. They were treating everyone like crap. My knees were not handling that place. And from the amount of caffeine I was taking, from the impossible quotas they were constantly pushing, I mean, I was like double fisting energy drinks, washing down caffeine pills and Advil just to try to hit their quotas, and then I still couldn't hit their quotas. And I was still doing a better job than anyone else they had available to do the job. And yet, it's just, they gave us a job that was completely impossible, that I was working myself to death to do. And yeah, from all the caffeine at least and the stress, I mean, my chest was like a horrible constant pain and constant migraines. It was awful. I at least sleep better now. I don't feel a lot better. I have injured myself a few times repeatedly, trying to go to bike trails and jog and lift weights and stuff, trying to force my body to be more athletic, and well, I don't think I'm ever going to be the athletic, six-pack, strong individual that one moment. I'm back. I just thought I heard some noises, so I need to make sure there weren't any people in the house. And yeah, my bedroom doors, even though I'm living on the second floor, my bedroom's on the second floor. And obviously the house is locked and everything. Bedroom door is also locked, and I actually have iron dumbbells in front of the door. Heck, I have iron dumbbells by my door. I also have iron dumbbells downstairs, though I just tend to have them lined up around the basketball set toy. It saves on space, but sometimes I'll lift weights downstairs. It's just I have different weights of different sizes, and it's just convenient to not have to take them up and down a fucking flight of stairs. So yeah, I'm not really sure what I was talking about. Like, thing about the surgery is the main reason. One, I'm grateful to my mom. Heck, Dad recently had a hip surgery about a month ago, so that had to be pretty fucking off for him. I went over a couple times. They bought like a new chair for him, so I helped carry it into the house for him. That way, you know, because he wasn't in a condition to do that. So, and also my sister moved at one point, so I went over, helped her move her furniture and stuff. But yeah. But like I said, I have mental illness, but I'm not violent. I'm not a threat to anybody. I'm just an extremely depressed person with autism and ADHD, and I like to read a lot. I tend to play a lot of video games and watch Let's Plays, watch anime, and sometimes I get a little carried away with reading books and stuff. And sometimes I'll lay in bed and listen to nightcore music and just cry. And sometimes I'll pace my living room and talk to myself and talk to stuffed animals, or go on bike trails and walk for long periods of time and just enjoy nature. Heck, sometimes it's just nice to go out and just watch the clouds or watch the trees blow in the wind, or just it's nice just to sit out and watch the rain. You know, I know there's not much of a view for people, but I like the view. I like the rain. I tend to be... It's funny. I would hang out with people that were stoners, even though I never smoked a damn thing in my life. And people would think I was the one who was the stoner. I've never smoked a damn thing in my life. But I just tend to just relax, chill. I do like to read a lot. And there are sometimes I do tend to get lost in thought. And there are sometimes I'll either be obsessive on certain thoughts or have an addictive personality. I mean, heck, at least for a little while there, I stopped drinking Pepsi. What can I say? Pepsi is delicious. But yeah, my mental illness is I'm just an extremely depressed person with low self-esteem who has PTSD and severe paranoia and tends to be extremely lonely, introverted, and talks to himself. And perhaps has a bit of negative self-talk. But I'm not a threat or a danger to anybody. I mean, unless you consider me annoying everybody, that much of a problem. But yeah, I'll say about the surgery was this. I do appreciate that my mom spent 3 days and 3 nights with me. I was practically crippled during that time. There was a few times where I couldn't hardly move. So my mom had to drain my piss bucket in the toilet a few times. Because like I said, I was basically... Heck, there was a period for 22 hours where I was awake. I couldn't sleep, and I was just laying kind of somewhat curled in the fetal position, turned to my right at a 45-degree angle. It was extremely uncomfortable. My legs were cramping up completely. I was even feeling Charlie horses, but I couldn't bring myself to move out of that position because the rest of my body was hurting too much. Even though I was taking, I was allowed to take a certain amount of Advil and Tylenol by certain hours. And it wasn't Oxycontin, which would have been much stronger, but like oxycodone, they gave me this really tiny pill versions of that, so very weak. Which I understand, they don't want people to become addicts or shit. But same regard, I was really, really uncomfortable and in pain. extremely miserable. I was practically crippled. I was practically bedridden. Then again, I've been in the hospital a few times, basically on my deathbed. I remember when I've been hit by trucks multiple times. Heck, I know one time I got hit by a truck, had like a dozen plus staples along my head and the left side of my skull, and all my ribs were bruised. I couldn't move my left arm for a couple months. My legs from my waist to my bottom of my feet were covered in black and purple bruises that looked like basketballs. Got my ass kicked like 1,000 times. So many times, fucking 5v1 fights. It's like, yeah, let's just spend half an hour to an hour just having 5 people beat the fucking shit out of you. Heck, at one point I had a bruise on my left temple that stuck out like an inch or two. It's just like a giant purple welt this size. I don't know, I'd say the size of my entire palm. So, what can I say? I've been hit in the head a lot. I've also had a lot of high fevers. Like 106, 107 once even. Had like 100 times where medically I should have died. Heck, I had fucking palsy when I was 13 years old for like 2 fucking weeks. Technically Bell's palsy, but still. Had asthma when I was younger, technically do again. I don't take inhaler, it's too expensive. Also been hospitalized for swelling of the brain, meningitis and encephalitis of the brain and spine. Also had a spinal tap. Spinal taps fucking suck. They are extremely uncomfortable. Then again, I hate anytime they stick me in needles and IVs. But it's like as you get older, you have to get stuck more and more with that kind of shit. I don't like it. Like I always have that paranoid thought looking at the IV on my arm, imagining like a dull box knife going through wet cardboard. But yeah, I spent 3 days in that ICU when that happened with the swelling of the brain, and the meningitis and encephalitis in the brain and spine. They pumped me with so many fucking chemicals for those 3 days to force me to not die. But yeah, the initial description of the surgery I was going to have was much more invasive than what I did eventually wound up happening. But for about 1.5 years, I was expecting that eventually I was going to be required to have the invasive surgery. That would be extremely not good. And then they wind up reevaluating and deciding that the lesser option was more viable. And then they also decided that I was never going to agree to the more invasive surgery. What can I say? I didn't want to get cut open. Then I spent about half a year waiting on when we were going to have the lesser invasive surgery. Which, like I said, at least they didn't really have to cut me for that one. It was just put stuff inside my body and then dilate parts of my bladder and urethra. And then, which I was still very uncomfortable after that. Had to have not being sick, but a very long, very thick catheter in me for 48 plus hours straight without it coming out. And then removed it myself, which was uncomfortable, and I just about passed out at first. At first I tried doing standing in my shower, and then I did it sitting on my toilet. And then for the next few days, I basically had to scream every time I had to go pee. It hurt that fucking bad. But I was practically crippled for those 3 days. So, yeah, it's definitely a godsend that my mom was here for those 3 days and 3 nights, because I absolutely needed her. I absolutely needed somebody to be here for me. Because I was practically crippled. I couldn't function on my own at that point. I mean, like I said, I had to have mom start draining my piss bucket in the toilet because I wasn't strong enough. I was too weak to, walk to the bathroom and drain the toilet, drain that. I just couldn't do it. But the reason I bring that up is this. I spent a year and a half expecting to have to deal with the more extreme surgery, and then the half a year of knowing that it'd be the lesser surgery, but with having a definite date on the horizon I'd be going to, all the while working a shit ton of overtime the whole time, every week, and then having that actual surgery. And it has been 6 months since that surgery, and in all that time, I have not told any of my friends. Not a single one of my friends. The only people who knew, of course, are my parents and family. Because, I had to have a ride. I couldn't drive down the freeway after, being put under anesthetics. That's apparently considered illegal. And also, I probably would have gotten in a car accident. I wouldn't have been really in the physical condition to do that. Also, apparently you're not allowed to drive down the freeway with a catheter inside you either. That's also a law. You can't drive down the freeway with IVs and tubes sticking out of your body, or being drugged up by a doctor. But, yeah, it's been 6 months since that surgery. I still haven't told any of my friends. I haven't told anybody. My parents know, and obviously my son's grandparents know because, it's his parents on his mom's side. So because I had to have the surgery because of genetics, and since, my son would be sharing half his genetic code with me, there's a chance that he might have to also have the same surgery when he's, his 30s or 40s or whatever. So just something to look out for when he gets older. But yeah, all this time, I still haven't told anyone about the surgery. The only people I know are just doctors, the parents, basically just family. Even the people I considered my best friends, who I considered as brothers to me. I never once messaged them to tell them about any of it. I wonder if I ever even come across their minds at all, if they ever think about me at all, if they even remember I exist. Then again, they have all their own personal lives, and they're busy with things. I can't blame them for that. Besides, between stuff a decade ago and stuff a decade and a half ago, I talked their ears off. I sometimes would, because eventually I bottled things up for such a long time, and then eventually things got to a point that it was just too much. And so, my reaction to all that stress, I talked about my feelings. I talked their ears off. And I probably annoyed them, but they still listened to me. And I appreciate that. A friend whose first name starts with the letter B, his brother whose name starts with the letter C, another mutual friend of ours whose name started with an S, and a friend I made later on from a girlfriend I was with for about 6 months. Actually, that girl I was with for 6 months was actually the healthiest relationship I was ever in. I had actually planned to marry her, but of course that didn't work out. But there was a guy with the first name starting with letter D. I met through her on like the first week of dating her. Me and him wound up becoming best friends. I remember hanging out with him while playing Minecraft with him, sitting down playing Halo 3 co-op. I really did appreciate that. I enjoyed making a new friend. I'm gonna end the video now.